Cool. So we are live. Hello, everyone. Hi. Ho, ho. Merry Christmas already. No. Hi. So this is our first hybrid event. It's a co-event by the Munich Jazz user group and also the Micro Frontends Meetup group. So both are coming together today to bring you some modules. So everything is themed around micro frontends today. I hope that's a topic you like. Otherwise, you will have pizza. I hope that is better. Just a few words, since this is a special event, first hybrid event, first stream from Munich Jazz, and first on-site event from Micro Frontends Meetup group. This session is being recorded, so there's a camera in the back. If you don't want to be seen on the stream, then just don't look back. During the breaks, we will have, of course, an overlay, so you can just walk around. During the presentations, yeah, don't look back if you don't want to be seen. Now, we also have a chat room for the people in the chat. Please be supportive there. Don't follow our code of conduct, essentially. And we never had such a situation, but if it occurs, we will not tolerate any personal attacks or harassment in there. Finally, for the Micro Frontends Meetup group, we also have a call for papers. So if you want to be in the show, that's a monthly show, just submit it there and we will see what we can do. But any story to tell about Micro Frontends is a good one. And we'd love to have you in the show. So there are the links. You can just reach out to me or just follow up on Sessionize. All right. And now, of course, since we are a hybrid event, we also have a very nice host. So, Uliana, thanks again for hosting us.
Welcome, everyone. Happy to have you here. I'm Uliana, one of the hosts from Alaska side. Hello there. I hope you see me and hear me. I have a second microphone next to me. Usually I always ask, how many of you have been first time to Alaska? It's already a second event we host together with Florian and his community. So happy to have more people here. A couple of words. We are a company who develop a B2B SaaS solution for the real industry. We have our own product who drives the impact to sustainability because almost 40% of CO2 emission come from actually buildings. And we aim for reducing it massively, and our software is helping real estate to actually reducing it and being more sustainable, plus actually digitalizing it and moving from the Excel sheets, which they have been using for a long, long time. It's an oldest industry overall in Germany. You probably have heard about that. And we do have full stack development here in-house. 50% of our development department occupies the entire company, actually. So if we talk about 100 people at company, different floors here, almost 50 people are in product and engineering. That means a lot. So we drive the product. We do our own research, UX, whatever people need and customer need, and then provide that solution as soon as we think that makes sense for everyone. If you have more questions about what stacks we are using from front to backend, it's Python on the backend side, mainly coming from the Django side, and on the front end, it's React with Tailwind CSS and other tasty thing with design system we have in-house as well. So feel free to reach out to me. We hire the full stack employees, full stack engineers, and I'll be here. And we have also other Alaskan in place, and we will be happy to chat with you. Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks. That was the hard part. Now we come to the fun part. Sorry, it's me. It was not Santa Claus. But I will still wear this, hopefully. All right, so I don't have many slides today because I think that was already announced, and otherwise I hope that you're not feeling a little bit frightened. What I will try is live coding most of the things, some things not. So I have some, let's say, safety nets in there that I can jump a little bit forward, that we're not stuck there at hello of the hello world, so to speak. Okay, so let me just first try this. Yeah, cool. So I have some slides, but not too many. The first two talks of the three, that's from me. So if there is no other speaker for the second talk, don't be afraid. It's planned like that. All right. So first one, title: Monorepos versus Micro Frontends. What I'm going to show is a little bit of a sample application that I find always very intriguing, and you will see why. That is a monolith, and I will go and split it up a bit. It's already, of course, very much prepared for the job. Real-world applications look a little bit more messy and will definitely have you spend more work to do that. But yeah, here we only have half an hour for the topic. So yeah, it's prepared in a nice way. And the goal of that should be to first go to monorepo and then go further and actually micro the shit out of that application and see where we are. So what we are going to do, first, I will introduce you to a sample project, then we'll do the transformation to a monorepo, look a little bit at the advantages, disadvantages that we can see. Hint, most of the disadvantage you can, of course, combat with tooling. We're not going into that direction here. So all I'm doing here is setting up with out-of-the-box means from npm a monorepo. If you want to do that with all the advanced tooling that you have today, feel free to do that, but we're not going to do that here. Then we are going to make the transformation to micro frontends and then a quick evaluation if I can manage to do that within time. All right, as said, I will code live, and that means things could go horribly wrong, but yeah, I tested it out and I feel 95%-ish, 90%, let's say, confident that everything will work. And otherwise, of course, you can, of course, at home also try these things out. There's a repository on GitHub. It's in the Pyro samples. GitHub organization should be the first repo there because I just recently pushed all the things. It's called Christmas sample. And the sample application I will show, and I will show you in a second, so yeah, you will see something visual as well, is a Netflix clone, and it is, as mentioned already, a monolith, but it has what I would call a sound architecture. So with that in mind, let's see our progress. First step would be then to create a monorepo, but let's not jump. Let's first look at the application. So I will go into VS Code, and here's all the code you'll find in this repository. I have a talk folder, so all the slides you will find there. But what I'm interested in is this demo folder, and I hope that you can see it also in the back and online very nicely, what I see on my screen here. Now, this is an application I just scaffolded using w.r.t. React application, because everything I do today is in React. I hope that will also not frighten somebody. If you have another framework that you like, go ahead. But here we are at Alaska soil, so I said we need to use React. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter so much, right? So for what we are going to do, it doesn't matter so much. If you prefer, I don't know, quick, Angular, you name it, you rock too. So no problem, right? All good. So one of the things that I like about w.r.t is that it already starts with an HTML file. I like that. That was, I think, inspired by Parcel, who came up with the concept first, because everything starts with an HTML file. If you do a single page application, that is what the project is, right? So we got this HTML file, and it already has all the jump points in there, like, for instance, our index.tsx, which then, of course, follows up with other modules, and therefore has all the let's say, script magic that we need to bring this application alive. We also have a little bit of Sass here, so didn't use Tailwind, but yeah, you could also imagine that Tailwind would work too. Yeah, and we just referenced it here as well. And of course, w.r.t will recognize this, will follow up, and will make an appropriate CSS bundle. So everything that the browser can digest that. And all that being said, before we dive now into the structure of the script, let me just try to run it. Did I install? I did. As always, okay, but it seems to work fine. Let me try to open this. Okay, nice. So this is how the application looks like. Yeah, does it work? I guess so. You can log in, which just means change a profile. So I like Jane, so I go with Jane. But of course, I could also, I think, log out and try another account, log in again using, I don't know, check, for instance. So yeah, it works. If you try to watch a video, so I would say American Dad is a kick-ass show, you get rickrolled. So at least when the connection here works. Anyway, yeah, it would be really great, of course, if that works as well. But we didn't implement that streaming part yet. So, okay, but all the other data is real data. Is coming from IMDb and their APIs. So this is not just some bogus. Is all cool. Now, regarding the code, if we look in there, I said it already has a sound architecture. So what we will find in here is, if you know React, you potentially need a point where you start rendering. This is here. That point in this case also defines the router. So we use some browser routing mechanism here. And together with that router, we have a layout. This just has the Netflix logo and all these things. I'm not going into details now on this, but it also then defines all the routes that we are using. Like, for instance, what should slash do? Just forward to browse. What should browse do? Show this browse page, etc., etc. Now, for all these, let's call it sub areas, like the browse sub area, profile, search. There's a search. We didn't look at that, but let's wait for it. There are already folders here, which is well said. It has a sound architecture, in my opinion, and these folders don't cross between each other. So that will make it very easy for us to transition. I told you it will be very, let's say, easy example to get into. Normal code won't be that nicely because no one cares about these sub areas in usual code. And they always say, oh, I can make an import. I do an import. Well, problem solved. And if there's no remark on a pull request review, then of course this code will go through. But here, again, if there are crosses between the areas. So for instance, watch has the movie tile, which is this preview tile that you've seen that shows the preview image of a movie or TV show. Now the browse page is in a different area, right? So what you usually would do, you would just make your import from watch. No, that's not the case here. As said, sound architecture. So there are of course different means to do that. But what they decided to do in this example is just give me this, what is called here movie tile, and you need to supply this component. So you could also supply something else here, for instance. So it doesn't do the import because that would cross boundaries. That's all done now from the application. Okay, so that's our application here. So let me just stop this. And now, of course, as said, the job at hand is to transform this to a monorepo. And if things go slow, because I always see that screen is changing slow, that is just means that the Mac can't stand streaming, having a lot of HTTP servers and 3 screens to manage and all that. So anyway, so bear with that, please. Okay. All right. So what we could do is just utilize a monorepo using the NPM workspaces feature. Of course, other package managers like pnpm or yarn have also workspaces. So if you prefer those, you could also utilize that. And as mentioned, there are actually also tools that build upon monorepos, which do, for instance, what the package managers do anyway under the hood for you. So what we could do is just using these workspaces in a new route. So what I can do to transform this, and let me just start this. It's really good on its knees. Is so I go ahead and what I will do is I create a new folder and I call it packages. Oh, it's already there. Yeah. I delete that. It from other branches. It's magic. Sorry. I want to give it the same name though, that when you use the magic jump points, right? They're not completely screwed up. It should be at least aligned to some extent. Okay, so what I can now do is I give that a good name and I select app. It might be also the worst name, but at least you know what it is. It's the application. And then I move over all that stuff here, right? So grab it, move it. I need a new MacBook soon. Anyway, one with these new chips that they always love to talk so much about. Okay, anyway, let's initialize a new package JSON here, and hopefully that just works. And actually, it brought in a lot of stuff because I think it recognized that there is a node modules. But let me just remove all that. Actually, we don't need that. Yeah. And let's call this Christmas sample monorepo. I forgot actually the name, but yeah, that I gave it here. It doesn't matter. And Workspaces, great. So we can give it different folders. It also accepts wildcards. So something like this is acceptable, which means every folder that's now below packages is treated like its own NPM project. And that's what a monorepo is from the perspective of NPM workspaces. Great. We could also, of course, have the standard sections here. We could have additional development dependencies, or we could also mark them, of course, as dependencies or scripts. And we'll come to that in a second. But so far, all we need to get started, workspaces. Great. Now we moved our application in here. Should we change something? I mean, ideally, we also give it a good name. If that name was already good beforehand, let's just stick to it. But here, just changing the name should be good enough. Now, hopefully it did everything right. That's what I like about computers. You can always just try, and the worst thing that can happen is that your computer blows you in the face and says, yeah, you're wrong. But nothing bad happened too. Okay, well, it did something, but it seems to be unchanged. We have now a package log, that's fine. And now the question is, of course, how can I run this? Before I just made npm start, and now, of course, there is no script. But what I could do is I can run it, and there is, I think, a workspace flag here. And this flag, you could give it the name of a package. So here, this is a long name. Better copy this. So otherwise, I'm quite sure I will fail. And now we're up again. So, I mean, this is, I wouldn't call it a full transition yet to a monorepo, but it's a start. And at least we laid here the technical foundation. I think the server should be up and running. So it loads. Again, sorry for my slow machine here. But yeah, we see it is there, it is running, nothing changed, which is a good sign in this case, right? So this part, it worked. Well, not so fast here. No, actually, good. We closed that one. The technical foundation is laid. But now we need to migrate to the monorepo, meaning that we need to identify the areas that that are useful. What is the main reason to go for a monorepo? Well, you want to have some library that is shared, for instance. That could be one reason, and you want also to publish that, right? So then, of course, it makes a lot of sense to move to a monorepo. In our case, what, of course, we have in mind, long-term thinking, is to move to Micro Frontends. So there also it makes sense to already have these things being laid out and being placed there. Now, again, also looking at the time, I will not do the full transition here, but what the transition looks like is as follows. So I would just create a new folder. Let's call it browse, for instance. And I mean, I want a little bit of structure. So I will definitely place a source folder in there. And then I would just go ahead and say, whoa, lucky that this thing has a sound architecture, right? So I just take this, I grab it, and we try to move that. Okay. It did a couple of things, so that's good. Well, now we don't have the browse folder anymore, so let's just move it to trash. Your trash. Okay, good. Now some things changed. There is also a little bit of, would call it overlap. And that's in our SAS. Again, architecture sound, which means you already see a browse file here. So I'm not going to dig now where I need to find these pieces. It's already a file. But this file is referenced in here, in the index SCSS file. And so what I will definitely need to do is remove this. There are a couple of ways what you can do now. You could still have an import and then just reference it in a module and all this. This is not what we will do here. I will show the way that we do here. Just copy that over. And I think the structure here is fine. Let me also add one more file, an index file. And let me rename this to style. Well, because, yeah, style. And what I will do is whenever this package is used, and again, if you want to make this a reusable library, this strategy might not be the best. But in our case, since we're just transforming now, the application should still work as is, this is totally acceptable. we just import this thing. So we're saying whenever now this module, this index.tsx is somewhere imported, let's also import the style file. And hopefully, since we already know this thing will be imported by w.r.t, w.r.t will pick up the style file, w.r.t will transform it, put it into a CSS bundle, and everything will be awesome, essentially. Glad we had the conversation. And now, what are the next steps? Well, I mean, browse was still used in the original application. We removed it already from the style, but it also appears somewhere else. And find, please. What we need to look up for is where we used it. Again, it isn't used in many locations. This general menu we can forget for the moment. So we only used it in our index file here. But yeah, this is now gone. So we need to think about what to do here, right? And there are strategies. So what we could do as an example is, I just write this code here. I think it looks like this. So we still need to have the lazy. We can just import that. Add missing. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Actually, I want to import it from React, but I don't have yet a package JSON, so React is missing at this point in time, at least from TypeScript's perspective, and that's all that matters. And yeah, it looks a little bit like this, right? So we just export this component, which is lazy loaded. So there's still bundle split at this position. So whatever is all in the browse page will all be at the end its own dedicated script file when we emit it. Great. Okay, cool. So we did that, which means browse page that we are using in here, we could just then import from at the end, like a static import. And say from, yeah, that's a good question from, because we didn't specify yet this package, right? So we can just give it a name, and I will come up now with some convention, which is totally arbitrary, but just for the sake of argument, to say, hey, this is a demo browse. Okay. Of course, at the moment can't be resolved. That's all fine. Now comes the point where we say, let's also add this. So the easiest thing to do is I just copy over the package JSON. I'm lazy, sorry, but you get the idea. Did it work? What did it do? Huh? Hello? Ah, there it is. I just, for some reason, didn't show up. Okay, so we call it browse, and let's remove this. Let's keep these dependencies. The def dependencies, well, I mean, yeah, we could let w.r.t stay there. I don't care. Well, actually, remove it because this will not work. We don't have an index. We don't have an index HTML, and it will not work. So let's remove this. SARS we only would need for the build tooling. We also remove this. And let me also remove these scripts. Now, in a real monorepo, you might want to also have a build maybe for this, because maybe you want to publish this. But here, as our main goal is at the moment to just transform it, we say, nah. But we still need a main, because at the end, w.r.t needs to resolve where this module leads, right? And so we just say, hey, we go to scripts, and what did I call it? Index.tsx. So, okay. Did I give it the right name? I think I did. But again, there's just one way to find out. Let's install that, and let's see if we get complaints and all that. And then let's just try running it. It didn't complain so far, but that's the danger of w.r.t, right? Because it starts immediately, but then it just starts to process things once we hit localhost. So it's empty, which is not good, right? So, but let's see. Okay, I know why it's empty. Actually, we should see an error message, because we are not making the default export. And we get actually TypeScript already works. It's always a good sign when TypeScript works. You're feeling confident that you're not making just bullshit. So, yeah, okay, it works. Slowly on my machine, sorry, again, but it works. Did I say that I need a new computer? But yeah. Okay, so this thing works. And now, of course, you could watch me doing the same thing for the other, but I think you get the gist of it. So this is where I use the cheat code. And what I will do is I'll check out all my changes. And I check out monorepo, I think. And then Git tells me, that is the moment I was afraid of. No, okay. We get this working. Following untracked would be overwritten by, yeah, I do that differently, right? It might have been bad, but I hope not, actually. So wait for it. I have a trick on my sleeve. It should go into the right folder again. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a good trick, right? But now, maybe I just did. Okay, now it's there. Now let's try monorepo. Okay. So I'm not a Git master, but I get around. That's the story here, right? Anyway, so we are back, and just an RF node modules and. Anyway, cleaned it up. Great. So let's just make an npmi to continue from here. So now this point in time, we already moved the other things over, but I told you it's the same process and the application just works. It just got a lot lighter now, right? So there's just components in there and one style file, and that's it, right? All the rest is now coming from all these different modules there, which you could, of course, publish also either on the public or some private npm registry if you want to do that. Okay, so we close that, and now this thing looks similar to what we see here, or it should look exactly the same, to be fair. So great. As seen, we used now these exports, but we could have done that a lot different too. The advantage of this thing is, I mean, it's driven, of course, by our application design. And we didn't want to already have these modules export something. Therefore, if you import now the module, you export everything behind it. This has the advantage that the bundler already knows and it splits it in that direction. But make no mistake, potentially you want to use sub-modules or something else instead, so that you can decide in your application if you want to lazy load it. Again, I just went here for the shortest possible path. Right. And if you want to export something else like types, you can also do that, as you can see here. Right. Migration done. Awesome. It's good. Everyone still on track so far? Yeah, thank you. Feels good to be alive. Awesome. Got that. Anyway, so pros and cons. In general, this improves the architecture. I wouldn't say this for this example because the architecture was good already, right? But if you do that, you're forced to have this architecture, which in my opinion or in my book is always an improvement, because this also means you need to think about more where you can import and what you can't do. And so things like what we've seen initially, that you don't cross these boundaries, that would be rather natural here, right? So this is good. You now also have the ability to have reusable packages. I mean, we now have these component packages or the main components here, but that could be like a shared library that you publish on your private npm registry and then use in another project, for instance. So it's quite good. And as said, the sound architecture comes with the structure that's now fully revealed. Before, that was hidden in the application, and now all the areas that are standalone, more or less, they are now exposed through this monorepo. The problems, of course, is that, of course, a monorepo is like everything where you put more architecture, more modularity, and everything in there is more complex, right? And if you want to go for a direction where you have these reusable packages, you need either to publish all, work with private flags, or especially think about versioning, right? And potentially, therefore, have an increasing complexity of the CI/CD pipelines. Things like if a version didn't change, you don't want to publish it, or if a version didn't change, but its signature is different, you want to publish it as a new preview version or something. Rules like that, right? They easily come now, and well, they need to be accommodated for. or you can just, like I did here, ignore it and say YOLO. So that's also possible. And in general, if we now have individual builds for these things, and great that always when you do a talk, you get update messages. You have increased build times, because not only do we have now a build of your monolith of your application, but potential also builds for your individual packages. But of course, you could argue, if you use tooling like written here in the footnote, that you can actually get decreased build times, because now you could potentially cache things, and suddenly your bundler works already with modules that have now the cached results coming to the table and all that. So that's of course also possible. But then think again, complexity increases with these solutions, and you need to know how they work under the hood to fully use them. So as usual, always a trade-off, right? And that's the story of my life, or of every software developer's life, essentially. They're just trade-offs. No silver bullet anywhere. But then there is a silver bullet, at least when it comes to micro frontends. And yeah, you can of course argue it's also not a silver bullet, but it will help us tremendously. So if we now want to move forward and say, well, okay, that's my monorepo, but wouldn't be the greatest advantage that you can have for these individual front-end areas if they can really be independently deployed, and maybe even independently of a repository or so developed and shipped, maintained whatsoever, maybe by a completely different team. Well, this is where you enter the area of micro frontend. So this is an organizational pattern at first that allows you to just have independent teams that can just make their own decisions, right? And say, we are ready to ship, let's do it. Let's not wait for someone to say, well, we didn't go for the latest API changes or anything else. We are ready. The part we are dealing with is ready. It's fully covered. We are sure that this works. So what you can now do is, and I think I will code a little bit, but then we will jump ahead, because otherwise the time will not be enough. Anyway, is to install Pyro as a framework, which means in this case we are getting Pyro core, Pyro CLI, and etc. in there, and to have our package JSON changed. So let me just do that. Okay. Not sure why this thing goes bazooka here. Maybe I should forget about the live coding if I can't even move things. But yeah, let's stick with me. Okay. So we could, of course, stay with what we have right here with w.r.t, and I will actually do that, but then I will not use w.r.t standalone, but I will use w.r.t coming as a plugin for the Pyro CLI. So that's a little command line utility that takes care of, for instance, in this case, bundling our application, making sure that everything from orchestration point of view will work, and it should be 1-for-1. Yes, there it is. Okay, thank you. And we also change these here. Let me change that. And that is the same. And then let me also add, I think, Pyro core here. 1-for-1. I can type it maybe. I help you here. So, okay, great. Okay, so far so good. This is good. This is only a first step. It's similar to what we did with the monorepo. The first step, we didn't actually like do everything. We just did a tiny step that's already laying the technical foundation, right? So we're doing the same here. I need to adjust the paths, I think. Let me just try that. So we're no longer relative. We put the index HTML now in source. I think that is actually not a bad choice, because it's part of our source code, so it should be in source. And you get it also in your distributed, though. Yeah, why shouldn't it be in source? Anyway, okay. Otherwise, it's the same. And we could actually leave this and it would just work. But then, well, I mean, we could argue where is now the magic, but yeah. Let me just keep the changes. So beforehand, w.r.t did know where the index HTML is by convention. It just went to the root folder and it said there must be an index HTML. If I would have moved it, w.r.t would have complained. I could move that via a configuration, but yeah, that's sort of painful because it's the root folder. So, and then I moved the root folder. But for the Parallel CLI, it doesn't work like that. It wants you to specify that now in the package JSON via an app attribute. So you just say, hey, my index HTML is an app, is where I say here. So it's in source index HTML. And the other thing you might want to have, but it doesn't make a difference right now, is you might want to share dependencies later on from your app share. So that's central sharing. You can also do distributed sharing. We'll not come to that, but yeah, we could tell it that we are the import map here. So what we could tell is we have additional imports, and we could specify them. We don't do that because we can also use something in a custom addition to import maps, which is you can use an inheritance. So already Parallel Core says, hey, you want to share React, so we will share it. And also we take Parallel Base. We don't need it really. It just shares the TS-lib contents. But that's also a few kilobytes. Okay, anyway, so that being said, I think it should work. But then again, you can just try. Did I install? I did not install, right? This is a classic mistake. This is I will never learn this, I think. Never. Yes, there are some tools that monitor the package JSON and the install, but I don't trust these tools, right? It would make the machine even slower than it is right now. So, and as it is right now, I'm battling already. Okay. So hopefully this is now a success story. Let's cross the fingers. Doesn't look so bad. That looks back. Oh, yes, that's something I observed on the Mac. I had the old package lock, and I made it on Ubuntu, and I think it's about ES-build because that comes with native packages. But anyway, let's do another npm-i, and then let's hopefully it works. And otherwise, let's just cheat if it doesn't. Okay, let's pray. Thank God. But that looks good. That looks good. So it's further along than last time. We're already transforming. So in the meantime, let me already go there and open this. And okay, that works. Cool. Good. So second thing. So it's still building with w.r.t, etc. So it was another baby step because not much has happened here, right? Okay. So there's also this DS store file. Let me try this. It is not fully. I should have made this more elegant. I think a reset hard could also work, right? But I don't want to add. I want to just check out the other branch.
If you added the checkout, will remove it. Or the reset. Yeah, the reset.
I'm not feeling confident. I will try this at home later when no one sees me doing that. But thanks. I will just go for my barbaric methods here. They usually work. The DS store and the flow folder, I don't care. So I think we are here at the app shell. So all good, I hope. Okay, great. So we see the same situation here. Not much has changed. We just are getting into this mode. I think there's one additional change here. And let me just explain that for a second, if I can move that down here. Because that was just the first step in transforming. We still had all the old code, right? We were not running Pyral, but we want to give over to Pyral the whole orchestration. We can do that also within our layout and all that. But usually what you may want to do is that you render the layout also from your Micro Frontend orchestrator. So the only thing that we are rendering, and that part remained, we've still called root render, but we're now not rendering this layout that we had, but we rendered the Pyral component. And this thing now decides what layout, etc., to use, and we gave the layout over here in components. So that's part of the initial state. So we create this Pyral instance. It knows now how to resolve so-called pilots. These are micro frontends. We get to that in a second. So far, we are not telling it any micro frontends. We're not there. And then we set the initial state, which contains our layout, contains maybe other things that might be useful, other layouting components, like a loading indicator. So Pile takes care of that. And it also has what we beforehand had in our routes. It has this. Again, you can also use the mechanisms beforehand, but if we do it like this, we hand it all over to the Pile framework. I'm not starting this right now because time and yeah, that's not so spectacular. So the next thing now would be migration to micro frontends. And again, I will not migrate everything now. I will just do one. So the end idea is that we don't have everything in this app shell, that it's really an app shell, which means it's just an empty hull, right? So it doesn't contain all these components, like the browse page, etc. These should be all in individual micro frontends. And so it will transform to this, right? So we don't have browse, we don't have the profile, etc. Again, for sake of time, I will not do all the things. What would be the easiest to do from the time perspective? Let's maybe do profile. Let's do this. So idea here is to not have profile anymore. Yeah, it's as simple as that, right? So profile is now gone. Great. Let's maybe confirm this for a moment. Let's just start it. And we now should see profile gone, at least the profile page. It's actually just one part of it. We also have it in the header. I did forget about that, so we should also remove it there. Let me just look that up. Yeah, profile extension. And sorry again for the slow machine. I will say that a couple of times more that you sticks. So I removed it now in the two parts. One is from the routing mechanism, so /profile doesn't do anything anymore, and the other is now from the header item, so we don't have this login there or the profile picture. Okay, so moved over and let me refresh. And so what is now gone is this thing here, and I mean I could try going to profile, but I mean, I think you believe me, it's just empty. There's nothing more. There's not this selection. You should see now these different avatars there, right? It's no longer there. So how do we now get this thing as a micro front end? Now, what we would need to do, two things. First is the routing part is easy. Let's maybe get to this at first. Let me just stop this here. Go to profile. So here we are, profile. And what I will do is I will actually add a def dependent. I don't want a cyclic dependency. So let me also remove profile here. So where is it? I removed it now. It's completely gone from here. But it now turns around in a way, and I will explain why it in some way turns around, but in a more generic way it doesn't. I will move to def dependencies, but that is important. The Christmas demo app. Is it this? I will confirm the name in a second. Yeah, okay. And I will also add another file, which is a pilot.json. That just gives PyroCLI some information on this thing, that it's actually a micro frontend, a pilot. And what you can write in here is Pyro instances. So these are app shells you think about using for your micro frontend. You're not limited to these app shells, but these app shells are installed and you can directly use it to see how your micro frontend would look in them, right? So it doesn't mean that your micro frontend is restricted to them. It just means for your development efforts, well, you can use them now, and you can directly see how they work out. So we had Christmas. I should have made a simpler name, right? Demo app. And actually, you can write something in here like selected true, but if you don't write something and we only have one, it's automatically selected. So let's just have this. And this is this. We could have more in here, but the most important part there too. One is I changed this. This is now the source, actually, but that doesn't matter. And I have an import map here, too. And as said, you can have, well, distributed dependencies here, but we don't have this, let's call it advanced concept. But we still want to use whatever this application, this app shell offers to us. So we inherit from it. We say, hey, there are already some dependencies that are offered now from, oh God, Christmas. At home, that was easier to, or it made more sense. But sitting here, I was like, damn it, should have been just 3 letters and it would have been enough. You get the gist already. So I know, I'm not sure what I was thinking. But anyway, so that's what I'm telling it here. Now, how does a pilot look like? Well, essentially, the good part about it is it looks, I think I got the name here wrong. Let's just make it TSX because we want to use maybe a little bit of JSX in here. And let's also change this reference. Essentially, it looks quite similar to what we have here, right? So we had an export from this module, and we still have an export, but now we don't have individual components because, I mean, how do we pick them up? That's one of the crucial questions of micro frontends. Who picks them up? If you know already you picked that up, you have a strong relationship, and that's not what you want to have. Instead, you want to have a mechanism where you have loose coupling. Well, you need to, in order to achieve this, you need to give the permission to the only place that can know how to use these components, and that's inside the micro frontend. So this is why there's a setup function. That's the only export it should have, and what it gets is a special API. We call it Pilot API. Come to that in a second. Let's just leave it undefined for now, and it has then a certain functionality. For instance, register page to register page, and we can now say, hey, for profile, I already offer something. I offer the profile page. Let's do it like this. And then I also have something else. This is some. Let's leave the other thing out for now. I come to that in a second. But this is an important part, which is why I want to close this, and then we are done for the first talk. All right. So far, so good. Maybe let's have this Pilot API figured out. Let me do the following. Let me generate something here, and maybe I do it automatically. And the best way to do that is via post install. Post install, I love it. It's like your way of saying I'm too lazy to always run the command. So you run it for me when I anyway need to run npm install, because that is what I need to run all the day. So I just run this thing. And I run Pyro declaration. And hopefully this will work. So let me just do an npm I. Yeah, let's just do that. And hopefully it will not complain and do all whatever it does, it should do. Okay, and in the meantime, while this takes too long, for my opinion, I explain what it should do. It now, of course, checked again. Oh, it now has a new relationships in there because we removed one of our monorepo package references, and we moved another one in the other package. And then, of course, it had to run the post installs, and it didn't do it. Or maybe I'm just too blind to see it. There should be now an index DTS in here, and maybe I just put it in the wrong folder. No. That should be right. So here we are, and we have Pyro declaration, and nothing was generated. That is not good. But, oh, no, there it is. I was really just blind. So here we have a file now, which is good. I still forgot one thing, because TypeScript doesn't know that this file exists, right? And this is a good file. So we should tell TypeScript that we have a good file. We do that via typings. And so we just say now this index DTS, and TypeScript should be quite happy in our monorepo case here. So this should be good, because now, at least I hope, TypeScript is very good. I hope that this is the reason my machine is slow. The TypeScript is always checking. It's like, did something change? Did something change? And no, TypeScript doesn't do something. But yeah, we can still have some fun. And we should see the pilot API appearing now. Great, good. So now we know that this is a thing that comes from our application package here. And we see this, all the API that's offered is anyway way more than we need right now and way more than we will cover. But among these things, we have register page. And now what I can try is I can already run this. Let me just run here from this root directory pilot debug. So before we had Pyrrol debug, now we run pilot debug, and maybe for that I should still. So we should still use Vite for that. So let me also copy that over. You can trust me. It would be more fun if this machine is more responsive. But up and. Yeah. My boss is in the back, so I will have to talk with him about my Christmas present this year, and I can assure you it will be the new MacBook when it comes out. With these M processors, so they seem to be so good. Yes. Yeah. This is an old machine. Sorry. Yeah, no. That was not the command I wanted to run. So I was already too eager about the new MacBook that I was envisioning. Okay, all right. So profile, and I think that should just run, but let's see. Maybe I'm doing something horribly wrong. That looks good, but yeah. Should have made all branches new on the MacBook again, because then the log files, at least, they would have contained the right reference. Yeah. How's your evening so far? All good? Great. Okay. Mine could be better, but I'm having a good time with your people here. So, but the machine is making problems. But yeah. All right. So if that now works and the command then works, so we're not getting that Vite doesn't start because I guess ESBuild has downloaded the Ubuntu things instead of the MacBook. So this, I think, would have been a great example of not committing the log file. Yeah. Should really rethink my policy on that one. Anyway, let's try it again. Let's hope for something better. It looks okay-ish. So let's see. So let me. It doesn't look good. No, actually it doesn't. Sorry. No, why is it not? I mean, I get the app shell in. No, actually, it looks good. The confusion is on my side. Where we can see that this worked is, I mean, we only integrate the profile page. Me, stupid. So where we can see it is if profile works. That's good. Oh, yeah, thank you. You could think that was intentional. It was not, but yeah, maybe I should make this talk more often and not just for this occasion. But anyway, so now comes the hard part, right? So as we've seen, the routing is already there from Pyrrol, already integrates a router. So this was easy, right, to get done right. But all the rest, Pyrrol doesn't do so nicely for us. So we now need to think about it. And one of the things was these header items. But again, it was already prepared nicely from the architecture that we have header items somewhere. So what we could say is, hey, let's bring a position in, and we call it in Pyrrol an extension or extension slot in this case. Come on. I hate when autocomplete doesn't want to work, or I don't know. Maybe it's too late. Maybe they say, hey, why don't you just go on vacation? I want to, but this is last evening. Okay, so I imported that now, and I can give it a name. And what do I want? Let's call it header items. So, Of course, later on, all the header items will be gone and will be replaced by this extension slot. Right now, I still want to keep the search extension. Or wait a minute. No, let's keep it like that. Let's also have it displayed. But now what we can say is, hey, we have here a slot where someone could throw in components. And we call this header items. So we open that up for all the micro frontends to contribute to it. Great. So we opened that up. And now the only thing that's missing is that we use it. So it's a little bit like an event mechanism, right? So one thing says, I offer something. So I meet the event. And another party can now say, hey, I'm interested in that. I have a listener for this. So the listener here is a component that I register. The only difference to events is not just, something in code that's going on, but it's really now something visual that at the end will be rendered. Okay, so we call register something, and we register an extension. We register it for header items. And we can register multiple extensions. It can be also non-registered. That's the beauty of it. Maybe let's see first it with none. So, I mean, this is not spectacular because it's just nothing. Yeah. But wait for it. Aha. Profile extension. Let me check. Oh, now it imported that already. I don't want that. I want it lazy. Well, actually, we can think about it. Does it make sense here? How big is that versus? I mean, it would be always shown. So having it lazy is maybe not. It's also rather small, right? So maybe having not a lazy import. Maybe I give it. Yeah. I don't care. I don't know now what I did in the cheat code, but we can see in a second, or don't if you can check it out. But let's just see. I just push it over. You can see. Login. Nice. Right. We put in a micro frontend in there. And let's see. Ooh, it's already working nicely. And I can log in as my favorite again. I'm Jane. Excellent. So I'm going to cheat in the break. So I will put in a summary right now. So what we've seen so far. And, that's the same idea here. The general menu, we also need to improve. But it's the same idea. You see an extension slot here. The only difference that you see in here, which is the advanced mode, is that we drive the rendering. We put it around an unsorted list if there's something. And we put every component rendering that we receive into a list item. Because, I mean, the micro frontends, when they register a component, they can't possibly know that in our app shell or in this slot that we want to use them, we actually want to structure it with a list item. I mean, if they would know, we already would share that knowledge, and that's something we don't want, right? So here we are doing that. This is the beauty of this extension slot. That's why it's better than just a plain web component. First of all, it is, let's call it interactive for the slot owner. So you can drive the rendering, and you can also therefore see, is there nothing registered? Are there multiple? Which do I pick? Do I want to modify them? All these things you can do with an extension slot. So it's just a way now to grab items that have been registered. All right, and that we've essentially seen. That's just a different point of view here from the search extension. Yeah, and it already uses a movie tile. That's, by the way, registered from the watch micro frontend. So they also can use these extension slots. They just use it via the API. Yeah, that's the story here. So then we migrated to micro frontends, and the whole application is micro. Maybe who wants to, before we have a break, who wants to see how the whole thing looks as micro frontends? Okay, let's cheat and let's go forward and have this. But I don't want to spoil too much. It will look the same, but it just then is a lot of micro frontends that are coming together. All right, so I make again my move. So that this works. Micro frontends. Shit. Where are we here? I want to do that. Yes, I could maybe do that more elegantly, but bear with me here, please. Okay, great. Then need to go to demo and sorry for this endeavor. So node modules package log. While this is installing, I will. Commands like this can go horribly wrong. Whew. That's why I use Git, by the way. I mean, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And it could be that I just delete everything. So it's good to have a backup plan. Anyway, so while this is installing, let's have a look what we just cheated out here. So now all these things are micro. So you can see Watch has now this pilot JSON and the code transformed. Open, please, not that one, this. And see that the indexes have transformed to this mode. Also, I think I added a little helper script, and I call it start all. So what I do here, and we will see later on with a nice flag that I can grab multiple at once. But what I want to start is, I want to start now multiple micro frontends. So I start the browse micro frontend, search, profile, and watch, just all together. And that will just run, hopefully. So npm run start all. Because if I start now the shell, it's just empty, right? I mean, there's nothing in there anymore. And by the way, we can just see that there's nothing in there in a second. And that's then, there's still pizza left, but we will get something else. Maybe a beer. Okay, I need two. I don't know why I now have two search boxes. But let's ignore. Let's just say it's there intentionally. Maybe I just register something twice. It could be as simple as that. But whatever I'm doing, I don't know what I have to. I will debug that doesn't break. But the idea is I can now also see I have here a little browser extension installed, the Pyro Inspector, and I can see what micro frontends are loaded. And so the easiest thing I can see, so that for me now reveals, do I register this thing twice? Is this the fuck up, or is one still left for some reason in the app shell? Let me remove that. Aha, that must be the reason. Then I have it still in the app shell. I can also remove it altogether. And so that just toggles it, the other thing. And so let me remove the profile one. Aha, that's also now gone. Let me remove the watch. Well, now that will look ugly because watch drives these movie ties, among other things, right? So there's something fishy going on, and I will go for the bottom of it, right? So there's anyway. I'm feeling fooled. I will go to this until break, and luckily I have a second slot, so I will reveal the truth to this. And I guess it's just something didn't really check out there. I will have a look, but anyway, we will get this sorted out. Okay, cool. So summary for this one, and sorry it took me so long. I will make the other one much shorter. Monorepos help to make the packages reusable. We've not seen that, but you can trust me since they're all individual NPM projects, right? And if you have these packages, they anyway give you a sound architecture. The next step is, of course, introducing micro frontends, and there it's all about loose coupling. If you do strong coupling, well, I mean, you can do that, and you see, of course, like for instance, any module federation example will always be, I mean, most of the examples at least are always about strong coupling. Don't go there because your projects won't scale. They only scale if you have loose coupling. So you need to embrace that from the start. And by the way, and that's what we've seen so far, but we will also go one step further, the micro frontends can live in a monorepo, so it's a natural transition there. But the beauty of micro frontends is that they also can outlive the monorepo, so they could live somewhere else. You could move them somewhere else, and this all still works. And you can also reuse them in other contexts. But we will see that in the second talk. And with this, let's go on a 5-minute break. We have, yeah, sorry. Well, let's clap first. Thank you. We got some questions. Okay, you start them, I guess. So I need to repeat them first. Oh, there's one question, I think. Okay, can you share the repo on the chat, please? Can you do that? I will type it in. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Okay, then let's go into break. Oh, yeah, question.
Just quick questions. Thanks for the talk. Nice head, by the way. Just a question. Is there anything wrapped in the markup when you use the extension set? Or is it just really the component itself?
So the question was, is there something showing up in the markup when we are using its extension slot? There's a short and a long answer. The short answer is yes. The long answer is it depends right now, but in general, yes. And in general, that's also the direction. And there are multiple reasons for that it's wrapped. But why there's a long answer is because historically we didn't want to wrap something. Historically, there was no display contents in CSS, which already made things a little bit fishy when you wrap it, right? Because then you bring in a helper component or markup that no one knows, but you need to accommodate for in the layout and so on. And that makes things dicey, to say the least. But since I think 2000 or around 2001-ish, 2020, sorry, 2020 or 20, I'm already fucked up. 2021, we now have in CSS the display contents, and that essentially gives you something that is still via query selector and so on findable. So it's in the DOM tree, but it's no longer participating in the CSM object model. So it's completely transparent there. So any flexbox or something you apply doesn't apply to directly this component where display contents is, but to the contents of display contents. So it's a very nice thing, and we use this, and especially for foreign or non-React components in Pyro. But in general, the way also with PAL version 2 is that all components, no matter if they're foreign, I mean, PAL version 2 also doesn't have such a strong dependency on React, so it's actually completely independent. So all of them have a wrapper component then. Yeah, so PAL is used, we have a lot of customers, and PAL is now, I mean, in production since, I would say, already 2018, but that's before we started the repository. But the repository was born out of a production project, and it's just a generalization of that. And we are live since 2019. And I think the version 1.0 was released, well, this year. It's not so long ago. It was released at the Micro Frontends conference, yes. But yeah, I have a lot of consulting projects and a lot of open source users too, right? And we have a community chat as well. Yeah. Thank you. Let's have a beer. Or beer. getting over time, so not my strong suit, but hopefully it was at least enjoyable. Now it is working. Yeah, have you tried turning it off and on again? So I'm not sure what was the case. So what I wanted to show beforehand was, I think maybe it was about the order, but yeah, we remove search, that's gone, right? We remove profile, that's gone. We remove watch. Now that looks ugly, right? Because that was our window into the different movies, so to speak. And we remove browse. And so now these are the layers, and they're just gone. Cool. Thanks. Awesome. Now, I will not get through with the whole agenda. I will cut massively on this one, but I hope that you still get the gist of it and that the first part was worth the time. I will now briefly talk about micro frontend discovery, distributed development, and I will not talk about island architectures. But there are plenty of videos of me talking about island architectures on YouTube. So it was a talk I've given quite often this year. So yeah, please. And otherwise, just always get in touch with me. I'm always open, of course, for direct conversations. And
Without a hat.
well, I mean, with or without. All right, cool. I will not code live. I think this time that we just get along quite fast. It's still the same project. I'm lazy, and we pick off where we left off. So yeah, we are already using micro frontends, and now we want to fill out that gap that we left, because if you remember, in order to start this thing, we always had to start all the micro frontends. But the question is, how do we deploy this thing now, and how can we deploy it in a way that that's where the discovery comes into play, that we don't need always to deploy everything, because that's not better than the monolith, right? So the monolith was already really good at that we just have one build and it works. Why should we make everything more complicated for nothing? And yeah, so that's what we want to do. So the first task is, how do we make it easier to deploy? Now, we had this request pilots function that we left out. Essentially, we just return a promise to an empty array. So what we could think about is, we put just all the micro frontends in a JSON. JSONs are cool. JSONs are great. Actually, I think I make all my money with JSON. So yeah, I love JSON. So that, yeah, life giver for me. So let's use a JSON here. So we just fetch that. That file doesn't exist at this position, but we will create it. It will be there when we deploy it. It will be there. Trust me. And then yeah, we just get the JSON out of the JSON essentially. And that is, of course, an object. It will be an array. It will be an array that defines the micro frontends that we will use. Now, for this, we will write a little bit of code. Yeah, I will not write this code now. You see it essentially. I will just check out the branch that leads to this. Oh, here we go again. Yes, a success. Deploy, I think. Good. Can I trick it? Can I remove the? Forget about it. I will just not touch. I will just not call npmi, and it should just work this time in the first hand. So what I can do is I can run the build script that we placed in our, you remember, Christmas demo app, and I give it a flag called release. Let me just do that. So this thing will now go ahead and essentially use w.r.t and make a release build. So it creates all the artifacts for the single page application that we can deploy it somewhere. And it will place it in this release folder here. And we get a couple of files. We have our index.html here. And I could now just try to run it, but I will not. It wouldn't run, I think. Or, I mean, it would run, but it couldn't grab anything because we already placed this pilots JSON here. And if you look at this dist folder, you see everything, but there's no pilots JSON, right? And so this loading will fail. And you see my programming skills here. I'm not very defensive programmer. I always YOLO it. In this case, yeah, I mean, someday you're gonna die. So this, I think, is the day for me. But yeah, so there's no way around it. But there, I still have tricks, and I can use them here. So I can just write it, or even better, generate it. I love generating things. So what I can use here is I build, and So I should maybe, sorry, to not confuse you, like I was confused for seconds. Here are some folders that just have some artifacts in there, but they're not in version control. So I renamed here the folders, gave them a little bit of a convention. So browse now became browse pilot. And I did that because then I can nicely use here this placeholder, right? We have a wildcard. And I'm not saying now packages everything because app apparently is not micro frontend, but I'm saying packages star minus pilot. So everything that's suffixed with minus pilot will be part of this joint build of pilots, pilot build, so to speak. And I make here a special type manifest. Now, manifest just builds all the micro frontends as a normal build would do, but it also generates of the build artifacts a manifest file, which is essentially this pilots JSON. So let's just do that. Now we need to wait because it now triggers a build of all these different micro frontends, and then it spits them out in the dist folder, I think here. You should see a dist folder. Please let there be a dist folder, because otherwise I'm screwed. But so far it looks good. It looks good. Writing, yeah. Looks good. Let me get one more. Dist. Yeah. We got it. That's good. So now we have all these, and we have a pilots JSON here. It's uglified by default, but I can just prettify it. And you can see that's just this array that I was talking about, and it basically has the metadata in there. There's a name, a version, spec that tells the Pile orchestrator what it should use to resolve the micro frontend, right? So you can use different things here, and it uses the version 2 spec. And then it has some technical information and additionally shared dependencies, distributedly shared dependencies. There are none for all of them. And most importantly, we have our entry point, a module, which is this Christmas demo browse index.js. Now, that's cool. Now we generated our JSON. Don't save this. And the final step here is, sorry, to move over now the artifacts that we generated for our app shell, right? Not just the app shell. And we just move them over. I think that worked. And now let me run this last command of this one script that would run everything, but I wanted to do it step by step. I just run. I mean, I could now go and make a GitHub repository, make GitHub pages on it, or I don't know, have a render.com or Azure static web app or your favorite thing. But I run my favorite thing on my local machine because I know it works there and I can debug it. And okay, it runs on port 8080. So let me just go there and see if we got this application running or not. And I think it looks good. There are a couple of reasons why you can see that this is production, because the debug tool is no longer work because it's completely stripped out. There's no connector anymore to that, so we don't get any information. There is another point where we can see that this is a little bit different to what we had beforehand. Oh, yeah, because that one doesn't come with a SPA fallback. Sorry for that. The HTTP server, that would have been better maybe on render.com. On GitHub pages, you still need to specify a SPA fallback, the 404. Anyway, you can see that we are loading this pilots JSON, right? And, well, don't you? It's rather small, I agree. But here is the information. It was all stored in this file, and it is fetched in the beginning. And all these micro frontends are loaded. So we got these index.js files here. And you can see they are loaded from localhost 8080, Christmas demo. And so at this point in time, what we, of course, could do is we just publish this thing as we just aggregated it. And we are done. But as said, we are not better than a monolith at this point in time, right? So we still make this big bang release, all the micro frontends together, and the reason is we are missing a micro frontend discovery service. So that's the missing piece of the puzzle, and then we can really scale well. So what does that do? So maybe let's first check we can deploy. That the deployment is rather inefficient at this point. We don't care, baby steps, right? So one step after the other. So now micro frontend discovery. what if we could use a service instead of this JSON, with the advantage that this service takes care of managing these micro frontends, and that we can independently deploy these micro frontends whenever we want to, such that we don't have the strong dependency of generating this manifest and shipping the micro frontends, right? So what I can do is, I could now start a separate project and create a micro frontend discovery service from scratch, or I just use a free one that's available, and we got one. And free has a star, so as everything in life that is free has a star. It's asterisk, meaning we gotcha, but commercial use, right, is a different, I would say, is okay up to some degree. Okay, now that's at least my view. I got a couple of feeds here, and a feed is essentially one collection of micro frontends. And what I want to do is I want to create a new one and not get confused. We come to that Christmas in a second. I will come to that. It is fun, but we will call it differently. So I will call it. Hey, wait a minute. We got the name on the slide already. Munich JS Christmas. Oh, for God's sake, that name again. But yeah, let's use it to be consistent. You can always argue about names, but consistency is more important, right? So okay, feed for the meetup. Okay, I gave it a cool description and now create it, and let's hope for the best. That's good. The good thing is this thing doesn't need to be created on my computer, so it's rather fast, right? It's only the rendering might be slow on my computer. Okay, cool, we got this URL, and I hope that it's the same that I have on the slide. I think it is, so that's .mypyrocloud. Okay, great. Now, what's behind this URL that I can just copy by clicking on it? Let's have a look. Yeah, it has a nice page. It's always good when it has a nice page. But actually, what it would have, if I wouldn't access it via the browser, is this thing. It would have kind of a JSON structure. We are back at our JSONs, right? And here we got an items element in there, and that's an empty array. We need to fill that, definitely. So since this array is now in items, we need to access it. So the code here changed a bit, but otherwise it's the same code, right? Our app shell just now uses this URL instead of the local JSON. Now what we can do is, for the sake of argument, let's do the following. Let's start our shell again, shall we? And I was waiting my whole life for this joke. Oh, we are. Oh, no. Not so fast, please. Okay, that's good. I want to have the discovery branch, because otherwise I would now need to change this URL, and I don't want to do that. It should automatically start with this URL, and it should be empty when I now look into it. So let's check that out. Transforming, I think it is already in a good stage. I got a couple of instances open, so let's just close some. That looks good, so let's see. Okay, that's it. So that's my instance running currently. And it has no microphones because I just started the shell, but it loaded already, right? Because yes, we got the feed here and it's just empty. But now let's publish micro frontends. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's bring micro frontends to our discovery service. And let me do it like this. I open a new console. Let me close the first one. You're trash. Voice commands would be really nice for such demos anyway. So it's, or voice confirmations, even better. Arnold Schwarzenegger always like, do the job. Anyway, so it's not, I'll go there. So I just publish now. Let me just publish everything. Should we publish everything? Let's publish everything. Let's do it fast, quick and dirty, right? So I bring this over, and what that does is it essentially starts a build, because I call it a fresh publish, and then it tries to publish it. But when it, I hope we have the right URL. I think so. Let's see. And I would now need some authentication mechanism. So usually what you want to do, especially for a CI/CD pipeline, is an API key, right? And you can generate one in the feed service that we've seen. This is the Micro Frontends discovery service. But for demo purposes, I don't want to generate now something where everyone can steal, because it pauses the stream and steals my token. So we also have the interactive flow. I love the interactive flow because it just opens the browser and I can now log in on my personal context. Need to type in my username again because Microsoft refuses to remember me. But then I don't need a password for magic reasons. Okay, this is Microsoft. And now it says successfully logged in. That's great. That's only half of the story. Actually, the other, oh, nice. It already populated here, right? So I just moved it up and we should see it in VS Code too. We should see a lot of successfully published. And now the great thing about it is, and you could, by the way, also stream this out live, but we did not make the WebSocket connection here. We could be attached to the feed. And when we refresh, this thing should be populated again, which is awesome. So, awesome. And now comes the real deal why Micro Frontends Discovery Service rocks. It just kicks ass. So what you can do now is, and I mean, now, of course, I have this is the debug instance running. So I could also do that via this browser extension. But what I can do now is, let's do that with the search. I can just turn that off. Say, it's not a good day for searching, right? And I say, I guess it is not. Thank you. Haha, but it gets even better. And now, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is, you can have rules in there, for instance. And these rules can be super complicated. But for demo purposes, I always make them super, yeah, I'm not sure about the name because I'm a huge, let's say, I'm strongly opposed to the idea of browser agent discrimination, let's say it like this. But yeah, so for demo purposes, that. It sucks. It sucks really. Let me try one more time. This is the first time. This is okay. Maybe just a blip in the connection. Okay, I will not question this now because if it works, it works, okay? So let's say only we allow the search only in Chrome. I mean, Google is behind it, so Google knows. This could be staged like the Gemini demo or something like that. But yeah, it's you can see when something like that happens, you could, of course, blame me, but it's proof that this thing is not staged. Okay, cool. So now, I think we placed it for search, right? So it should still not appear here, right? Let's see, just that I'm not, yeah, no search, right? But wait for it. I don't even have, oh God, the spinning ball of death. Oh, okay, I pressed some button that I shouldn't have pressed, these machines, right? So, so now I only need to use Launchpad and Chrome. Should have maybe opened Chrome beforehand. That will now suck the rest of this machine. It will be a disaster. If there now comes not enough resources to run that executable, you know why. Oh, it's starting. I see this ball. It's good. It's there. You can see it on screen too. But now my mouse cursor is lagging. So the last resources, the machines. But we want to see the search. Nice, right? So cool. Thank you. And I mean, that is, of course, again, a rule you should, it's easy to implement, it's nice to show, but it's not something I mean, there might be also some real world use case for it, but let's trash it. And again, there are other rules that are much, much cooler, right? Like time-based rules, etc., etc. And just to also show something else and why a discovery service is cool, we had this Christmas feed, right? We had this Christmas feed, you remember? And now what you can do with that is you can reference this feed. And you're now saying, what? I show you something maybe beforehand, because then you get maybe an idea. So actually the Christmas feed is at the moment rather simple. We can have a look at it, but I can just explain what it has. It has just one micro frontend in there, and it's called Snow. And what it does, it makes it snow on the screen. On the website it's used. And actually it was used, or let's say implemented for something else. We have this other portal that we call demo portal, but actually it's, anyway, it looks like this, and it has a couple of micro frontends in there, and you can play Mario there, right? So you could go in there and oh God, now that would drain really all resources. It didn't even draw the background here. It doesn't even load that. But yeah, you could play this now. And nice, right? Anyway, and you can let it snow there. And it was developed for this. I could show you, but let's just let it snow now in the Netflix for sake of argument. So what I need to do is I need to call it configure sources, and here I can add additional sources where this feed draws micro frontends from. So I could just say now, oh, not even that dropdown is opening now. Christmas, let's use Christmas. And we now have an additional source with Christmas. So let's see what impact that has. By the way, the search should be back. We removed this rule, so oh, you already see that. Usually that looks smooth when they're falling. Yeah, it's, I transformed some of the snow we had here in Munich into virtual snow. And that also can decay. Okay, so but you get the idea. It's micro frontends are also usable in other contexts too, in other app shells. They might not look nice, but they would work. And also to make this one additional argument, also maybe in another direction, is it really doesn't navigate now. I could also use another feed here. Let's use the sample feed. So sorry, I got a couple of samples. And let me just copy this one, bring it in here, and say just add additional pilots from this feed. So we should now see, usually it goes a lot faster, but you get the idea. And I have now a new page, Mario 5. And now, okay, it's great, right? So awesome, and that works. This is, I think, this is where you say, this is cool, right? So you can just transport over things. Okay, nice, so that's a micro frontend discovery service. That's, I think, why I should have it, because it's just now the central brain where you publish your micro frontends. And that now, of course, allows independent development as well, quite easily. So for the last thing now in this talk is, what if we don't want to have a micro frontend in this monorepo? In the monorepo, we've been in quite a nice place, right? So because surely, deployment-wise, we already gained. We can now see we could independently publish something as well. So if our CI/CD pipeline is well-tuned, it might just do that. Also, micro frontends developed in this one monorepo might be used in other app shells, developed in other repositories or shells. So also another win. But the one thing, of course, that we want to care about, how do we now develop a micro frontend outside of this monorepo? Because what is missing then is the app shell, right? So this is a central piece. When you develop something, you want to see how it looks in the application where you want to integrate it. Now, for this, Pyro comes with a concept called an emulator. And classically, what the emulator gives you is just a tarball that you can publish on essentially on an NPM registry, like the public NPM registry. But it also gives you a way to publish that in a way that I don't need even an NPM registry, just publish as a website. So we will do this now, and you will get the magic of it in a second. So let me just, I don't give changes, right? Good, so new feature. Okay, so what I now need to do, I have now a new script here that's called emulator. I just let it run. Essentially what it does is it makes this build of our application shell in this emulator website mode. And then all we do is we just let an HTTP server run in this directory. Of course, Usually you don't want to have it on localhost, so you would publish this to a real web server, static storage or something, right? So that's the basic idea behind the website emulator. But again, I say if it works on my machine, it's good for the demo purposes at least. So let me just run this. And I have here another process open, so let me just close that down. I'm not sure, just close that. Otherwise, it's still doing things. Close it. Okay. Okay, good. So what you can do with this, we got the emulator running, and I just want to show it to you how it looks. It's not spectacular because essentially all it's about is this emulator JSON that's somewhere. It's a little bit like a package JSON, but it has a few more details in there, or a few less, depending on what area you look at. But it also published it, the debug thing, essentially, right? So we also got the app shell online. And I think it should actually look different. That's again the HTTP server. Oh, yeah, I don't care. I don't want to. I think it's about the caching here, isn't it? Just look in the network tab. Disable cache. It's actually on. Okay. Yeah, that looks better. That's what I expected, because it goes to a URL that's not there yet. It just will be there when we start the debug process. Anyway, long story short, we have this published, and the important part is we have the emulator JSON. And now with this, we can actually, can I copy this here? We can actually go in and create a new project. And let me try this in VS Code. So I could be in a completely new repository. So if I leave demo here, I left the monorepo, right? So the demo holds the monorepo. I mean, yes, of course, the real repo is a little bit larger. Well, actually, for sake of argument, let me do it completely outside of this thing. There's not even a Git repository, so that you fully trust me. And let's just call it, let's read out the name. Okay, so hopefully this will work. So it should already start. Okay. Good. Essentially what it does is it scaffolds now everything. So it gives me a package JSON, it installs already some dependencies, it takes care of templating, as it says. What does that mean? Well, it just puts in a little bit of code already that don't start with an empty sheet, but it's not much code. There's just, I think, a page in there. And that's it. I think that's about it. But importantly, it communicates with this emulator, and it understands, therefore, and it gets, for instance, the declaration file of the emulator and all that. And at some point in time, when I'm really old, this thing is done. So this is just, I was waiting so long, right? Still installing. Anyway, I was young when that installation started, and now I'm older. Yeah. So while they're waiting, we can take questions. Yeah.
How long can this new feature can stand there and rot and is not being updated while the frame is progressing into the future?
So the question is, what's the lifetime of a micro frontend? Is it a burden to the usual code rot? Of course, to some extent it is. It fully depends, of course, on how the app shell is treated. Now, with the app shell, you're making some architectural decisions. You can put in a lot of stuff and therefore need to maintain a lot of stuff. For instance, centrally shared dependencies. Let's say we got now shared React, which on the one hand is good. It decreases bundle sizes of these micro frontends. On the other hand, of course, that means you can't just upgrade it in the app shell because everyone else would get it. Now, React is always very nice. I mean, at least it was in the recent releases, major or breaking releases. There wasn't really a breaking change in there, so the effects there would have been rather small. But nevertheless, I mean, you need to decide if there's a breaking change, can I really update that? So if you go ahead and do that, you might break some micro frontends. And that, of course, would then take on the burden of updating these micro frontends on the individual maintainers. As a result, the question is rather, how much does the architecture team that defines what is in the app shell want to put on maintenance burden on the micro frontend teams? So usually you should try to get into an approach where you minimize the centrally shared dependencies, maybe up to 0, and because you can always use distributed shared dependencies, and where also you don't put in too much of these APIs. So register page is, I think, fine. Register extension is also very generic, but you can also bring in your own APIs on top of that, and that, of course, then has the burden of maintaining that API. And if you say, oh, that no longer fits in and so on, I need to make now a change, well, it might be problematic. So therefore, we just always turn it around and say, it's your fault. But yeah, that's just unfortunately how it goes. So one needs to be a little bit reasonable here and just see what makes sense. In the meantime, we luckily scaffolded our new micro frontend. And how it looks is, we can actually forget about this file. It's also empty, so let's forget about it. Is we have a source folder that hopefully opens. And what we should see in here is that we have a register page. As said, it's just registering a page. Doesn't even, come on, start up fully. And now the coloring is at least there. And we got already a pilot API from our Christmas demo, even though we don't own that. So if we go there, so if we say, where does this lead to? We are now in the node modules of this thing here, right? So we are completely independent of the monorepo before, and it didn't even know that, right? It was communicating with this web server that we made up. And again, we could have also chosen a different mode for this emulator and distributed in form of a real NPM package, for instance, if you prefer that. But this website emulator is quite nice because I don't need to set up an NPM registry or use the local file path or something like that. Anyway, cool. So we can use this, and then, of course, we can start it. Let me try that. Another nice thing to note, hopefully, let's first see if it starts, because otherwise we shouldn't talk about something here, but it looks fine, is that we use now ESBuild as a bundler. I mean, shouldn't be the tooling also free choice for the micro frontend team? I think it should. So therefore, yeah, they can use whatever. Now they're using ESBuild. Nice. And hopefully it works. It looks good because we don't know, right? Because we're not integrating anything into this browse page, for instance, but we should see that there's another page registered. And yeah, I mean, design-wise, no chance, right? We still would need to now do something. But you can see, we just scaffolded. We could also now deploy this, and it would be live and would go. I mean, if we have credential, of course, to get into this one feed, and it would be integrated there. Okay? And as a matter of fact, let me close this, and then I will conclude with presentation. I already prepared something. Who would have thought? And it's in this other demo. And what I prepared in there is another thing, is a favorites button, right? So what this thing is using is a new component, like add to favorites. So we actually extend the application. So we could just publish this. Let me just try publishing that. Do I have already a command in there? Hopefully I'll place the command. Come on. I don't see a script. No. Anyway, let me just do it manually. I will just copy over something from here. I copied that, but that path, of course, we don't need that. I think fresh. I think it takes by default the current thing, so it should just work. We didn't install. The pack. I'm not in the directory. Okay, so everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And let me just remove the package lock and then make an installation here and then try it again. It's funny, we said we will finish by 9 and now I'm finished by 9, but we have one more talk to go. Sorry. Feeling embarrassed for that, but hopefully at least you like the content. Good, so after the installation, what I will do is I will publish it. We will go to the site again, and what we should see is that we have a new favorites button, a new link, but it's not integrated yet. And then we will publish some microphones that open up a slot, and then it will all be awesome. I think this is on me. There we install a different version than the one that's shared, and it reminds us that we should actually align it. Otherwise, we might see something different locally than what's going on. Okay, so now let's try this. Oh, I didn't install. Nah, shit. Which only changed the package JSON, but that's not enough to fool it. Yeah, anyway. So let's go. Let's go. Okay. My Power Cloud, that looks good, that looks good. We are making this interactive deployment again. So let me, if that thing would run smoothly. Okay. And you can close that, close this. If we successfully upload it, we should already see it in our Munich.js feed. So let's go in there. And we see already other demo was published. I should have given it a better name. But story is, let's see, spinning ball of death. And let's stop this website emulator. Just drains resources again. Don't want that. Let's start the app shell, shall we? Again, debug mode, but we have an additional microphone now in there. And so now we see favorites. But it's not useful yet because without a possibility of adding something, that's rather useless, let's say. And what we would want to see is when we are logged in that we can now add things to our bookmark list, right? That we can mark movies. And again, the code already, I think in this part of the repository is already prepared, but we didn't publish it yet. So just as an example, let's use the watch pilot because it contains the movie tile. And what if we could say to the movie tile, hey, you got a set of potential options now for this movie. We call it just buttons. But the part is where are the buttons injected? Well, they come already here in our setup function. And the buttons are essentially just using the movie buttons extension. So every microphone can now register components from movie buttons. And if they're registered, they will be showing up in the tile. So let's just publish that and then let's see. So let me go and just publish this and then we are done and I'm done here. So let's say deploy, and I don't want now to deploy all the pilots, but just watch for the sake of argument. Let me check if I made a new version because you can't just publish. So 1.1.0 is a new version. And let's copy it. Let's bring it here. Let's cross our fingers. And interactive login. Here we are. Again. You know the drill. Go in here. In the meantime, let's check this version of it's 1.0.0 right now in our discovery service. So what we will do is log in, and then the upload should work in the background. I'm not fast enough. Does it change?
Yeah.
Just changed. Awesome. So now, let me refresh. Nothing changed so far. Let me log in. Chain. And now we have our heart here. And we can go to our favorites page. And we see our favorites. And feature is working. Very nice. So now we also made another integration point. So any team could now extend this movie tile and place other actions there, right? Which is quite nice. All right, so unfortunately, we will not cover the islands, but I expected that for some reason. Again, code is also there. There's also more code for the islands. And otherwise, I wish you a nice time at the island. Quick summary from my side, micro frontend discovery. You definitely need this if you want to do micro frontends. If you want to do them correctly, you need to have loose coupling, of course. That all enables, for instance, really distributed development, allows you to have micro frontends that are application agnostic and can be rolled out even with rules and all that. And what we didn't see is how we bring that all to the server and then only have tiny bits that need interactivity spit out to the client and rehydrate it there, and therefore have it all with zero additional cost. Right now, we still do on the client all the work, go fetch the meta information, stitch them together and all that, but that can be all done on the server as well. And then only the client does the work that the client would need to do anyway for all the interactive parts. So it's quite a nice situation then. So thank you for your time. Sorry for being late. Do we have some questions in the chat? Nope. Awesome. Some questions here, maybe. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to set this all up?
The demo or Pyral? The demo, I would say between 5 and 6 hours. Yeah, something like that. Pyral, pretty much the last 5 years. But yeah. Another question, yes? Is it realistic to use server-side rendering with this idea? Yes, it is. It is totally feasible. With Pyral version 2, we have all these called presets. I mean, it's still in early bits in development. But what it essentially allows you is that you can have the server-side rendering either then from scratch in your, I don't know, with an adapter for instance, Express or other, Fastify, whatever you want to, or inside something like Next.js as well. And there it's really feasible. But then again, it puts another burden on the developers of micro frontends. So in theory, you can also render anything, and it just renders some JavaScript. I mean, can render with Angular as a server-side renderer and so on. But if you want to use, let's stick to React components, and if you want to render them on the server, of course, you can't use something in Windows, etc. So it puts this burden back again on the developer to know what to do. But then what, for instance, this Pyral server side enables you to do is you have additional metadata when you register, for instance, your components. And in the metadata, you can then say this should render on the server or should not. And you can also say should also hydrate on the client or not, or should hydrate only when visible, and all these things that you know from the island architectures, right? That you can have directives that make the hydration really performant because it only hydrates when you say it should hydrate. And so, yeah, it is feasible. And if you look at the whole Netflix island demo, it's there. If you look at the code, the microphones didn't change so much. And they work then fully also without JavaScript. And it's quite beautiful. But of course, you need to still have to make this all work without JavaScript. You need to know what the target is, and you need to be disciplined to do that. Yeah, but it's feasible and it's doable. Another question?
Would you like to have a couple of words about the history of Pyral?
Couple of words. Yes. So history of Pyro. Let's just a few words. So the whole idea. So I'm doing Micro Frontends since approximately 2016. So there was a project in a smart home field, and it just felt very right that Micro Frontends have been used because also on. So this thing was about your smart home, as I said, and what you had there was an integration of multiple systems into your home system. So you had a central gateway, smart home controller, it was called, and that already had a pluggable architecture so that distributed teams could write drivers for it. So, for instance, for a Philips Hue or so on, there could be another team writing a device driver for it. But then again, the UI was monolithic, which means if there's a new driver coming out, well, still there was one big update for the UI. And then for, of course, people who didn't know so much, so they always need to interact with the driver people and say, what is this? Why is that? What are now these options? What can we do with those APIs that we can now access on the backend? So now the idea was to package also things into, well, what later was known then as Micro Frontends, little tiny pieces that are domain specific. And when you now write the device driver, you also write all the UI pieces for it, right? That, for instance, on a Philips Hue, suddenly you have a color wheel and all that you can select colors. And that became very, very intuitive and very nice. Still, the app shell contained, I would say it was, you can make this progression with, as we've seen, you can decide how much is still in the app shell, right? Which means in this scenario, for instance, the app shell still contained a lot of code, and only the device information, everything that was device specific was then bundled into Micro Frontends. But that really provided a lot of great benefits. And then later on in, I think, 2017, I started a large customer portal project where also Micro Frontends or a similar architecture turned out to be the right choice. It didn't seem in the beginning like that, but then more and more requirements came in, like, we already have this application and we already have this team. They want to work independently. And I'm like, oh, shit, how should we do this? And I was thinking back, and it was not so different from the first one, but of course I iterated a little bit on the architecture. And so a couple more projects in that space, and that reminded me, yeah, with all the things that I learned, I now want to spit something out that generalizes this. And actually, I think the learnings were all good and going in the right direction, but the key point, or what made it difficult in the beginning, is generalizing it, because there are so many independent or pieces that come together where people just say, but I want to have custom this, custom that, custom tooling, and so on. And yeah, how do you bring that together when you say you're bound to tooling? Because the tooling then defines how you, I don't know, share dependencies and all that stuff. And in the end, I think we've chosen there quite sound things, but the things that were, I think, improvable, we improve with version 2. And the things that can be improved there, we will improve with version 3. So that's a little bit of words on the history of Pyro. Yeah, it's a Munich-based project. So if you start on GitHub, it would be awesome. And if you consider it when you have a Micro Frontend project. Yeah. Break. And last talk then. Let's go bunify everything.
flow. That's funny. So I will talk today about micro frontends, obviously, but I will take a little bit of a different approach because I will mix the two technologies. I will mix Spiral with something new. Who of you guys heard of Bun? Nice, a couple of you guys. So for the guys that did not hear about it, Bun is an alternative JavaScript runtime. It's brand new. It's very hotly discussed in the community. It just had previously its first production release with 1.0, and it has a lot of cool stuff that I want to show you guys. So I will give you a quick rundown about Bun, really quick, because I had a talk about this already. And then we're gonna see what we can do with this nice little new stuff of technology. First and foremost, after I started looking into this, everywhere I go, I see his face, and I think maybe you will too after this. This is Bun, this is the logo, and now let's go. What is Bun? Okay, so first and foremost, Bun is a JavaScript runtime, but not in a sense of Node, because it has a lot of different philosophies. First and foremost, it is a tooling perspective for JavaScript. It comes with a package manager that is NPM compatible. It comes with a bundler. That is the most important topic for our talk today. It comes with a test runner, and it comes with a web server. So it has a lot of different stuff, but it innovates where Node is maybe already a little bit old, right? With 14 years on its back, Node is not the newest technology anymore. So Bun tries to do something to learn from the mistakes of Node. And one claim that Bun makes is that it's lightning fast in every aspect of the runtime. So it bundles faster than every other bundler in the ecosystem. It serves faster and it builds faster. It does everything faster, right? So also it supports TypeScript and JSX. It supports also ES modules and CommonJS in one runtime. So you can even in one file require a module and also import a module. In the same file, it would still run out of the box. It also supports TypeScript and JSX out of the box. You don't have to include any loaders or anything else. And it claims to be totally Node.js compatible, because this is one of the design philosophies of this runtime, is that it wants to be as compatible as possible, so we can have all the benefits of new technology while still remaining our knowledge about Node.js. Okay, then at least this is what they promise us, right? So let's see how much it can hold up. First, here, this is like a fun little game. If you go to the Bun website and you go to the documentation or the Get Started guide, open up a beer and drink every time they claim that their performance is better. I promise you the beer is empty before you go to the second paragraph. So I will go into this just a little bit. I just wanted to show you guys that they claim this. And I will show you an example where this really holds up strong. So where does this really shine is in the package manager. So as you can see here, this is what they claim, how fast their installation process is. And I can ensure you it is really, really quick. Maybe not that in that crazy magnitude, but it is really fast. So all these promises, right, made me very interested in this technology, and I wanted to try it. And obviously, I wanted to try it with my favorite micro frontend framework, Spiral. So yeah, let's see what it brings and how difficult it was to implement this. So going to the bundler, right? This will be the hard piece of this talk today. Here again, the philosophy is keeping the APIs as close to what we know while still improving on the technology. So the bundler of Bun is heavily inspired by, is built from its approach and also from its syntax. It has a module interface, so you can import it into your JavaScript code and use it as a module. You can also use it from the CLI. It natively supports a lot of different stuff. Here in the in the last bullet point, you can see what kind of default load that comes with it. And as an integrated watch mode, it is built for performance, as they claim, and also it supports custom plugins like every other good bundler out there, so we can load our custom files that are not part of the default. So now I'm gonna show you guys the bundler in action real quick. So as you guys can see, we have here our little index, which will just, I will need to fix something really quick. This is now, so VS Code is showing here an error because I don't have the types installed, but we will go forward and do this really quick. So also we will use bun. So bun comes with bun install, and I will resolve the packages. And here it has installed some packages. And now we're gonna run our index file. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna take my little React dummy application that I created and will create a minified bundle out of it. Also, I have written a just plain TypeScript command line mini game that will also be bundled. So, and as you can see, in my node modules, there are just types. I have nothing else. So no custom bundler, no webpack config, no nothing, right? And we expect this now to work. Nice, okay, right? We didn't got any error messages, beautiful. Cool. But shouldn't here be like a dist folder somewhere? Huh, that's interesting, right? No, I fooled you all. I didn't install React. So why did I do this? I wanted to show you that, yes, bun bundles really fast, but it also does not tell you if it fails. So we have to install React and React DOM because I constructed this demo. So, and now if I run my index ts, we can see a dist folder appearing, and we have here our beautiful minified React application and also my little storyteller application. So this is one thing that makes bun lightning fast. It does not lock anything. So obviously that like omitting one of the most performance demanding tasks like logging, like npm logs a lot, right, will improve your speed. If this is good or not, we don't know. In the implementation, so Florian and I wrote the bundler plugin for Pyral, and this was something that was interesting for us, right? We were happy, yeah, okay, now it runs, no error message, it's nice, but wait a second, here is nothing, right? Yeah, so that is a part that was very interesting to come across. So now that we have the basics down, what we want to do in this talk today. We want to create a modern micro frontend. We want to create a pilot. Yeah, we want to implement this micro frontend into an existing app shell that uses a different bundler and a different runtime. Right? And so we have an existing app shell from our distributed app shell team created with Node, with npm, whatever, used bundled with Webpack. We don't care. Yeah, and we want to use our favorite micro frontend framework. Obviously, this is Pyral, and we want to use the new JavaScript runtime bun and its bundler for our little micro frontend. So let's see. To this, we need to understand just really rudimentarily how the Pyral framework works. So as you can see here, the feed service is our discovery service where we have the pilot feed, we have other features, we have the rules that we saw in the talk earlier, where we can say different configurations, get different micro front ends and whatsoever. And then we have the front-end application running a Pyral instance and the pilots. So where do we hook in? Here. We will write a plugin for the Pyral CLI that will enable us to just hook the bundler into the ecosystem. And this is done because Pyral is already super modular. and flexible. So here are the building blocks of Pyrel. This is now for the current release 1.4. As Florian mentioned, it is currently dependent on React. So if you use Pyrel, you will also ship React. This is just a matter of fact. This is like it is right now. But in version 2.0, it will be framework agnostic. So it will just be the big orchestrator without needing to have like the React specific things here. But as you can see, there are Pyrel plugins. So we will just go ahead and dump one on there. So what do we need to create the bundler plugin? So first, it is very simple. We just import the CLI plugin interface from our Pyrel CLI. We create an index that will export our plugin, and we can see that from this index we get the CLI injected, and then we can with bundler command we can give it a name. We call it bun, and with actions we have all the actions that we need to fulfill for the interface to work. So here we can see the commands for debugging Pyrel, which is the starting the app shell watching Pyrel. So that's built with a watch mode for the source files, building the app shell, debugging a pilot, the micro frontend, and also building the micro frontend. So let me guys show you how this looks. So first, wow, now I get what you mean. It's really slow. Okay, so here we have our app shell, right? I will go to my app shell and do a npm install. This will probably take a while. Should we do it just for the funsies to check this install then afterwards with bun, right? We should do this. We totally should do this. But first, okay, now we have here our app shell, maybe. No. Command. This is not my native system here. I really would like to scroll up. I swear. I'm trying my hardest. Okay, good. Okay, let's go like this, right? We have here our Pyrel instance, right? This is the thing we saw beforehand. What should I do? Keep wait. Okay. Okay. Is it? Okay, I'm keep waiting. I'm waiting. Okay, I want to kill it now. Yeah, so I think it might be helpful to restart this thing, right? It seems pretty dead to me. It is very dead indeed. Yeah. The one behind to close. I clicked already. Okay, nice. Okay. We are doing it. Nice. So yeah, here the same thing, right? We have our beautiful application shell, and also here the same thing. If I just change this is the same feed that Florian showed earlier. Oof, now I have to start the thing again. Let us see if it kills us now again. Oh, yeah. Here, it's whoop. No. Ah, yes. Okay. Thank you for putting my name on the screen. In reality, I don't even need to show this, but we're gonna do it anyways because now we started the process and we need to stick through. I also tried to open up Firefox. Oh no, it's not doing something. I'm doing Command Tab. I tried it already 30 times, to be honest. Because, okay, can I? The green one. Okay, nice. And then nice, yeah, okay, we have the thing. So what I have done is I created an emulator from the empty app shell, and I use this then to populate my. I will kill this now. Die. Good. So, and this I will then use to populate my pilot. And now it's getting to the interesting stuff, okay? Because my pilot I have built with the with Bun. I've created it with Bun, and I have also bundled it with Bun. And after I showed you guys that it works, I'm going to show you how we made it work. First, let's have a look. Okay, so we have package.json, source folder, and nothing else, right? So now I'm going to show you guys first. Can I install this even with npm? I don't think so. Let me see. Because now I want to show you guys really quick the difference of the package managers. So let's see how long it takes to install the dependencies for our little micro frontend here that comes with React and other stuff. Also with the whole Spiral framework and all its dependencies. So we have 28 seconds for 276 packages. Okay, then get rid of the node modules. Also get rid of the package log. So any estimates? Who won? The person that is closest to the real number gets a prize. I swear. Huh?
Is there another cache in your user directory?
No. I swear it is not, because I have put this presentation on his machine via a zip file, and I deleted all the package logs and stuff. But I'm gonna show you too. So here's nothing.
0.4 seconds.
0.5. We had the 35 there.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. Okay. Then let's see. Five seconds. So it is really fast. It works really good. Okay. So and here in our package.json, we can see in my app, here's the path to the emulator, right? To the tarball that was created and built with Webpack is the default bundler for Spiral. So if you install Spiral, it comes with the Webpack CLI plugin. It also, as Flo showed already, it supports Vite, it supports Parcel, it supports ESBuild. I have made notes what it supports. Yeah, and Rollup. So those are the ones that it supports. And now Bun, of course. So now we have created Bun, and so now let's start our little pilot, shall we? Oh, cannot find Bun. So why is that? This happens when one of your dependencies uses Bun, because your dependency does not know what runtime to use. So to induce the runtime, and also something interesting that I'm gonna show you guys a little bit more in detail later, is what happens if you have any scripts in your dependencies that are shebanged for using the node environment. So by using this command, it will turn the shebang from the path to your node runtime to bun. So by doing bun minus bun run start, we will then be able to debug our pilot. And there it is. And now I cannot alt tab again. No, command tabs. Yeah, I'm trying so hard, man. So nice. So we have the same thing, but I have here my wonderful, cool from my micro frontend that is that, as you can see, I spent a lot of time in developing. But okay, so cool. We have now created a micro frontend. We have used an existing app shell that was created with a different runtime, with a different bundler, and we created a micro frontend with a different runtime, with a different bundler, and injected it into the app shell. It's pretty neat, right? So let's see what we can do here more of. I don't know how to stop this process. Like this. Cool. So then we will, maybe this even runs without it. Let's try it. No, it does not. So here's the build. So obviously the debugging command does the same thing, because if we do not build our file, it does not work. Nice. And it's built so successfully. So, okay, now we got into the meat and the potatoes. We get to the part where I explained to you guys what we did to make this happen. Wait. Nice. Here's my presentation. No. Okay. I don't have a slide for this. I'm just going to show you. Even better. Not live coding, but live sliding. So here we have our Pyral CLI package that we created for making this all happen. In the package, this is also a monorepo bootstrapped by Learner. And here we have our things. So here the index, the file that you already saw in the presentation, right? Nothing special, just a plugin that gets exported. And here are the actions that fulfill all of our interfaces that we need to be able to run the commands that Pyral provides for us. So then we start. In our bun folder, we have bundler run, which is the absolute core piece of the whole thing. This is the part that will get executed every time the build runs. One really interesting part, and also maybe something that makes the bundler so lightning fast, is that it does not expose any of its events. So when other bundlers expose the events, and also the other CLI plugins that we have created for supporting different bundlers were created via callbacks. So if we started a build, we emitted an event, and so on and so forth. Here's now limited to this very rudimentary self-built wrapper, but we still cannot really hook into this. So there were some ideas that we will then lock something into the console and have something listening to the console command. And if we see the output, then we will do something, but we left it like this. Also, something interesting that I have not showed you, I'm sorry, gonna show you really quick, is the watch mode that I mentioned, because bun comes with the integrated, the bundler comes with integrated watch mode. So if we go to bundler and we want to bundle our React application, then we say bundle and we say source our React TSX, and we will put this into the out directory out. And this makes no sense because it needs to be like this. Nah, bun run bundle, that's not true. Ah, nah, it's built. Yeah, I'm stupid. Yeah. It's not bundle. Obviously, it's built. Nice. Okay. And now we have built this thingy. It is here in the bundler, here in out, React.js, right? But now we will do this with the watch flag. Cool. And if we go to our source and I change something here and save, it will do this again. Well, this is pretty cool. The only sad thing about this, it does only run from the command line. So the wonderful integrated watch mode only runs from the command line, which then led us to needing to construct a very simple own implementation of a file watcher to be able to support it via our plugin. So this was another thing that we found for this. So here, really easy. We just watch our source directory of recursively and then create a little promise that compiles then the whole thing. Okay, so here in common, we have a function that gets exported. It creates our base config for our bundler. This is needed because we have two different things that we want to bundle with this thing. One, we want to build and run our app shell with this. The other thing is we want to bundle our micro frontend. And they are fairly similar, but not exactly the same. So here, what we're doing is we are just creating our config. This is shown here, like build config from bun, imported from bun. And what we had to do here is we have a code gen file that creates some import and exports in our HTML. And this, we had to build a custom loader for it because it obviously is not supported by bun by default. Also, what we found is that if you import modules dynamically in bun, the module looks different. Normally, the default is the default export of the function. So you can just call it in bun. It just returns you the URL of the file. Also something very different to note here. So here we have the config for our pilot. And this one is pretty straightforward because it just creates the config. Here in Pyral, we have something added on top because here what we have to do is also load an HTML file. And this is done by hooking a custom HTML plugin that we also created into the bundler config that we use. So here is our little HTML plugin. This modifies then the HTML file and writes the style sheet and the other JavaScript files into the HTML body of the app shell. So we are able to generate this in the runtime. And this is also something that Florian did not mention in his talks, but Pyral does everything on runtime. So all the bundling stuff, if you not build it in beforehand. So yeah, we create our HTML loader, which has the same interface as the other plugins. And this will then enable us to use this everything together. So yeah, looking also at the clock, I think it's time to resume my little call. So, and now I hope that you guys got interested, and here are some of the challenges. Please don't note the duplicated bullet point that I totally forgot to erase before this talk. But well, yeah, so something that is very interesting is it's a very cool technology. it provides a lot of cool tooling. And I really like Bun. I really wanted to succeed. I really wanted to be good. Is it good at the current moment? It is not feature complete. They claim to be Node.js compatible. They are not. They are just not. So we had problems, the bundler failing without logging, right? This is something that and also we tried we went to the documentation, and there was something that showed us that we can configure a logging level in a bun toml config file, but the runtime just ignored it. It just ignored it totally, right? So there's no way to make it verbose. It's no way to log it, what makes it really difficult. But at least we have it done, and Pyrrell has a bun plugin. So now you can use this wonderful micro frontend framework with the newest, hottest bread out of the oven. And I hope you guys enjoyed the stack that we created, and we call it very lovingly the spring onion. So thank you all for listening. Here, just a little tidbit on top. So after running, we changed the Pyrrell CLI bun plugin, and we found out that we can revert the scripts to the bun runtime. But then, as you can see, process binding is not implemented in bun. So they say they're totally compatible, but a lot of Node features are just missing. Yes, they are adding it after and after. So now we are in release 1.15, and they already improved some stuff, but this is built with the current version, and still some features are missing. I highly recommend you guys to check out the documentation. It's pretty good. And then you can see all the features of Node that are implemented currently and the ones that are missing. So yeah, you can just check out Pyrrell and initiate a new project with the bun bundler to check it out if you guys are interested. And thank you very much for listening. So Uliana said she's gonna kick us all out at 10 immediately. So if you have questions, as you should. I said to you 9 tops, right? Yeah, and you said to me that's always what you hear. So I guess it's our fault. So any questions? Yes.
Any speculations why this common.js is actually still there? I mean, you mentioned that it's supposed to do something totally new and leave the Node.js old architecture behind, and then it's still picking up with common.js.
Yes. It's picking up common.js, but also is module.
I know, but why?
I think to make it more convenient. Yeah, so the question, sorry for the stream. The question is, why does Bun pick up common.js still if it wants to be innovative and do something new? So, because in their philosophy is everything that in Node works should work, but better. So this is what they try to do with the philosophy. And they made it work. I tried it out, it's pretty cool, but yeah, maybe it's something that they should even cut out of the ecosystem totally.
I think this creator does not have to have it formed because he thinks that there are a lot of packages that use common.js.
Yeah.
He has asked about that.
Okay. Also, then a lot of dependencies would not work, right?
Yeah, so basically, not when they changed it, it was fine.
Yeah. Any other questions? No? Then that's a wrap. Thank you all so much for coming.